So before you go out and buy yourself a piece of vintage or antique cast iron cookware, you're gonna wanna look for these few things first. These are gonna help you determine if you're getting a good deal, if the person's asking too much, if there's room for negotiation and haggling, or if maybe you just wanna walk away from the piece altogether. Here I have 3 either antique or vintage cast iron skillets. Now the main thing you're going to wanna look for is movement. So we're gonna set these 3 upright. And when you do this, you're gonna wanna sit this on a flat surface, preferably a glass surface. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna press on the sides and see if there's any movement. So right here, there's a tiny tick, tiny bit. And now I'm gonna push on the handle to see if it spins. And it doesn't. So that little bit of movement is not a big deal at all. Now on this skillet, if I lift up on the handle a little bit, there's a little bit of movement at 12 o'clock. And so now I'm gonna push the handle and it does spin. Not crazy, but compared to this one where it sits flat, no spin at all. Again, you wanna try this on a flat surface because if you were to just look at it with the naked eye, you can't tell that there's a bow in the dead center. Now let's say you're somewhere where you don't have a flat surface, maybe say like a flea market, you can also try and use a straight edge. I'm gonna set this across the top and you can see at about that 3-inch mark where there's that gap. And if I can move my straight edge like this, there's gonna be a good chance this piece spins. Now we're gonna do the same thing on that flat piece. And you can see it's basically the same distance from end to end. And the only reason it's elevated is because of the heat ring on the edge. And smooth bottom pieces are definitely more prone to movement and spinning than pieces with the heat ring. Not saying that these can't be so warped that they spin, they definitely can, I've seen plenty, but the flat ones, you definitely wanna make sure you check out that movement. Now this skillet was very subtle with the movement, but did spin. Now this third skillet here has a lot of aggressive movement. You could tell from outer space that this skillet is gonna spin. And it does, big time. Now what does this even mean? Well, this piece is gonna be an absolute nightmare to use on a glass stovetop. This one will also probably start to move when you start using utensils. And this one's not gonna move at all on your glass top. So if you do have a glass stove, these are not gonna be really good options for you. Now pieces that spin are worth a lot less than pieces that do not spin. So if you do have a gas range like I do, you can get these for a much more reasonable price. Now besides movement and possible spinning, the other thing we want to check for is cracks. This will be harder on pieces that are super built up and gunky, but on a piece like this, you should be able to tell. You're going to scan the sidewalls near the handle and really get in there and see if there's any hairline cracks. Now, none of these pieces have cracks in it, so I'm going to take a piece that does have a crack on it. And if you were to look at it real quick, you can't really tell. But if we really get in here, you can see that right here, that line is a crack. And you could see it on the outside as well. Not these little stains here. It's this hairline crack right by my fingernail. Goes right through. Now a crack like this is not the end of the world. Nothing will probably leak through that crack. It's not in a terrible spot. If it was near the bottom, I've seen cracks here. Those might leak. Cracks near the handle are also bad because eventually the handle is just gonna snap right off. So if you find a piece with a hairline crack like that, again, the collector value is really affected. So you should be able to really drive down the price and it'll be a very good user pan. So to recap, when you're out and about looking for vintage or antique cast iron, look for movement and look for cracks.